Welcome to Virtualize Everything, Security Edition. So this came out in January 14th of this year. So it's rather old, as today is January 24th. But I kind of felt it was somewhat important to talk about, considering a large amount of our viewer base is Pi-hole or Tor users. Now, Tor users, you probably know about this or it doesn't really affect you. But Pi-hole users, it's something that you should at least be aware of. So, DNS over HTTPS or DoH, DNS over TLS or DoT are both methods of encrypting your DNS communications. So, DNS communications on the internet normally happen over plain text. So, what DNS over HTTPS or DNS over TLS attempts to do is encrypt those communications and hide them from prying eyes. Now, it's somewhat successful. There's multiple problems here with, we'll call it this technology. And some of those problems have to do with the fact that somebody's sniffing your network, looking at your communications, can just as easily see the IP addresses that you're loading data from. So that means that your ISP or a hacker can gather the same information they would gather from DNS in plain text just by watching your packets. So it really doesn't hinder them at all. They're actually going to be using packet software like Wireshark to gather your DNS anyways. So there's really no hindrance at all to anybody by using DNS over HTTPS. But there is a risk to you. So the risk to yourself is that if you're using DNS over HTTPS, your security software is actually could, not always, but could be bypassed. So if you're using software like Pi-hole, now I know Pi-hole is traditionally thought of as an ad blocker, but Pi-hole can be used to block tracking, malware, or malicious DNS requests anyways. So if you're using software like Pi-hole or even some of these softwares like McAfee's VPN, or I think AVG has one, or even some of the other features of McAfee or AVG or Norton's internet security, depend on watching those plain text DNSs going out to make sure that their requests are going for good or non-known bad IP addresses. So if you block them and encrypt them, those softwares can't pick up that you're visiting or your computer is attempting to talk to websites that aren't good, or not even websites, servers that have malicious intention. So your computer can communicate with those services in the clear with no software knowing that. So that's part of what the NSA's announcement was about. Now, the NSA kind of targeted their announcement towards businesses and not consumers. But the reality is, announcements like this, although they're advised for businesses, because that's the type of people that are normally looking at this stuff, really should be paid attention to by consumers that have at all security concerns. Now, that should be all consumers. But that's not the world we live in. We're bombarded every day by our technological gadgets. But that's another rant on another day. And we need to kind of stay with this technology. So there's a couple of things you can do. One of them, if you want to encrypt or use DoH over the network, you shouldn't use it on your local network, but you can use a setup like Pi-hole and set it up to use DoH after your local network. So that means that all your computers on your network communicate to a DNS server, and then that DNS server goes out and uses HTTPS to communicate with services like Cloudflare that offer DNS over HTTPS in an encrypted manner. This doesn't really stop the problem of your ISP tracking your data, but this will help reduce the risks of man-in-the-middle attacks if all your computers are configured to use one server for your DNS. You can also further stop any rogue communications with a setup like this by configuring your firewall to not allow any DNS communications that are not from your server to go out. Just thoughts. I recommend that you, if you're concerned, you leave comments in the comment section of this video. I'll do my best to try to get to them and explain to you my knowledge on them. Or do further research. There's plenty of information out there from fairly reliable sources. I read 4 or 5 articles before making this video that were on sources like ZNet and or ZDNet. But I wanted to leave off with a short video presentation on how to disable DoH. Now, there's 2 common flavors of web browser out there today. There's Firefox, and then there's Chromium-based browsers like Chromium, Chrome, Brave, I believe, is a Chromium-based browser. Microsoft Edge is Chromium-based. So those are the 2 main flavors. Now, there's been rumors, I don't know if they have done it yet, that Chromium will be enabling DoH as default in newer versions of Chrome. Firefox has already done that. So a default install, not user configured, will come with DoH set up. So here's a brief video of how you go in and disable DoH in Firefox easily. So as you see, we're going to go to Properties or Preferences. We're going to search for HTTPS and click on that Settings. Now we scroll to the bottom of this page and you'll see it says Enable DNS over HTTPS. We just check that off and hit OK. And DoH is disabled in Firefox. As always, I hope you enjoyed this security update and have a good night.